Let me thank you guys, or thank the University of the West Indies Open Campus and the Anguilla Guild of Students for this opportunity to present here tonight at the Oneness session. This was a very interesting time. And actually, before I begin, so I chose this because I want to be a bit more mobile, even though Gaff has told me I should move around too much, right? I do want to mention that I'm actually very proud to be on this panel tonight outside of all of the other esteemed presenters. I see two other members of my class born in 1989. She was Shelia Rogers-Webster and Miss Sherry's Brooks here. And it just goes to show that 89 was really a special year. I did want to say that. Yeah, I'll give a round of applause to 1989. No, okay, maybe not. Okay, let me make sure this is good to go. All right, nice. Anyway, as we get started, I was given the topic, be your own boss, right? And this was an interesting topic for me, just because I know what people think about when they think of a boss. Sorry, trying to get this thing set up. Okay, nice. So when people think of, you hear a boss, what are some of the things you guys initially think about, right? How do you describe a boss? Give it your best shot. CEO, anybody else? Leader, anybody else? Anybody else from the Albina Lake College Comprehensive School? A dictator? Okay. Okay, that was interesting. A dictator, that's fear. Anybody else? Anybody else think of anything when they think of a boss? Anybody in the back? Control? Okay, control. All of those are interesting. And actually, let me just go back to the opening slide to say that I didn't want to make this presentation too cliche about all of the things that you guys are accustomed to hearing when you think about how to be your own boss, which is essentially like entrepreneurship. But I did want to talk about all of the things that they don't tell you about being your own boss and being an entrepreneur and thriving in that arena. And I believe that myself and our organization is at a transition point right now, and I'd love to be able to impart some of the knowledge and experiences that we've had over the years through this presentation. So we've heard some very interesting words: leader, dictator. Anybody else? Last shot. Ownership. I like that one. That's kind of in the middle, right? So the dictionary definition of boss is a person who exercises control or authority. That's the dictionary definition of boss. I go to the Urban Dictionary a lot. Anybody else here use the Urban Dictionary? Like if I hear a slang, if like the younger people around me mention a slang, I go to the Urban Dictionary to try to figure out what it means. Why are you guys laughing? You use it all the time, right? I'm like, what? I heard that. What does this mean? So the Urban Dictionary defines a boss as a person who knows what he or she wants, knows how to get what he wants, and get it when he wants. He or she lives by his or her own code and does not care about what others think. That's a little rough, but that's how they describe a boss, right? What does society tell us it means to be a boss? What do you guys think society tells us it means to be a boss? Nobody? Yeah. Freedom. Nice, that's a good one. That's why I chose to be a boss. Anybody else? Someone who has employees, okay. Okay. Okay, so the boss doesn't work? Cordell, you're nodding your head. I'm peeping that from the corner of my eye, go ahead. Okay, anybody else? Okay, a boss is an entrepreneur. So I chose to share when I think of boss, the words that come to mind, or the people that come to mind. Or, I'm sorry, this is what society tells us it is to be a boss. I think a lot of times this is what society tells us it is to be a boss. Someone shouting at somebody, like just saying, do this, do that, and the employee help stop this bad person. But when I think of boss, these are people I think of. I think of Oprah Winfrey, shout out to Oprah, Sean Combs, Diddy. I think of Beyonce and Pablo Escobar, though he was a criminal boss. I also think of boss when I think of him, right? When I think of boss, I think of him. So what I thought when I was younger a boss really meant, that's what I kind of want to go into even before I tell you what I've learned a boss means. What I thought when I was younger a boss really meant. And Tanya Phyllis, this one is going to kind of make you laugh, or Auntie Phyllis, or Dr. Fleming Banks. So, as a disclaimer, I've always been actually really bossy, right? Shelly and I used to get in some arguments in primary school because she's bossy as well. But I don't know, I just couldn't help it. I enjoyed being in charge, and I still very much do. And this is Exhibit A from 1996 when I would have been maybe 8 years old. And this is from my cousin Jelani, who was my best friend then. And so he wrote, my best friend's name is Tahirah Banks. She has short black hair and black eyes. She lives at Rendezvous Bay. She loves to play sports such as bike riding, cricket, and baseball. Sometimes she is a little bossy. Sometimes she is not. She gets angry very fast. She's 9 years old and very tall, right? But that really categorized me when I was younger, and I grew up a lot of times thinking that a boss meant a certain thing. And this is what I thought. I thought that a boss was making my own rules and getting my own way. Because like I said, I like to be in charge. I also thought that a boss meant that I got to tell people what to do, and not the other way around. I also thought that a boss meant making loads of money. And someone put on their list that they define success as making money. I did when I was younger too. I still want to make money, but that's not how I define success. No. I also thought that a boss meant ruling over everybody. That's the crown right there. And I thought a boss meant that life would be perfect. Disillusioned. What I learned though over the years is that none of that is necessarily true, right? So in our work through my business, and I'm speaking here from myself, I do have the advantage of co-leading our organization with Gino. So I have somebody to vent to and someone to kind of go back and forth with, but I'm going to share from my perspective. I learned that none of that is necessarily true. So when I think of be your own boss, what I really want to talk today about is the responsibility of leadership through entrepreneurship. Because if it is that you want to be an entrepreneur, if it is that you want to own a business, if you want to start something, if you want to grow something, what I had to learn was that I can't do it on my own. It is literally impossible to be your own boss on your own. You have to have people that you work with. And the only way you can succeed is if you work with people well, and if you figure out how to get them to work well and to move forward your objectives and your goals for the organization and for their lives. So being your own boss, I believe, is a responsibility of leadership through entrepreneurship. So one of the most fundamental, important questions that every boss, I believe, has to ask themselves, if you guys want to be entrepreneurs, and I'm going to use entrepreneur, boss, and leadership interchangeably tonight, right? One of the fundamental questions that you have to ask yourself is, what type of leader do I want to be? That is the question that every boss has to ask themselves. What type of leader do I want to be? What type of leader do I want to be remembered as? So some people say dictator. Some people say, somebody that just delegates. And some people have different ideas, but what type of leader do you want to be, and what type of leader do you want to be remembered as? And that's the important question that every boss has to ask themselves. Me personally, as I've grown and gone by, I have learned that I am actually not a boss. So Cordell, I'm going to reference my team a lot tonight. He jokingly sometimes calls me boss, but I'm not a boss. I am a team leader. I don't consider myself a boss. As an entrepreneur, I consider myself a team leader. And the people that we hire are not employees. They are our teammates, okay? That is the type of boss that I want to be, the type of leader I want to be, and the type of leader that I am, or I try to be. And if I'm not, they can slip you guys a note and say, she up here telling lies all night. Right? Literally, though, it says so in their agreements. And Cordell, sorry, I put like the first part of your agreement on here. But this was when Cordell first started, first day of April 2018, between Thoughtful Agency Incorporated and the team leader, and Cordell Smith of Anguilla, the teammate. So there's nowhere in any agreement, I cannot call him legally my employee, because he's not my employee, he's my teammate. Why a teammate, though? Why as a boss, why as a leader, why as an entrepreneur do I choose to say that I want to be a team leader, and being my own boss is about being a team leader? Well, because leadership comes with the responsibility to nurture. Remember, we spoke about the fact that if you want to build something, you have to build people and you have to build a team. You can't do it on your own. And the only way you can do that, the only way you can get people to move and to act is to nurture relationships, is to nurture them and to nurture their growth, right? So think about if you're playing sports. Anybody here play sports? Come on. Anybody else? Okay, good. So think about if you're on a team, and think about if you miss a shot. You have a captain, or you the captain? You the captain? Okay, so who, okay, anybody here that's not the captain? Okay, Jody. All right, nice. So you have another sport that you're not the captain of. Okay. Okay, cool. So football. So imagine you guys are on a team and you're not the captain, and you go up and you try to score a goal and you miss. You know, why were you doing? Why you cribbling on the bench? I go to play basketball this morning. I miss about 20 shots in basketball, right? If the default leader of my team had said, "Yo, go sit down," you know, how would that make you feel, right? But it's the same thing as an entrepreneur. It's the same thing in the workplace. Your responsibility is to nurture, to support, to build people, to give them the tools that they need to grow and to be the best of themselves within the organization, to help the organization move forward and to move your entrepreneurial dreams forward. I believe that your people are a reflection of your leadership. This is a ticklish one, and I do expect a question about this afterwards because it's tricky. Because if you inherit bad people, then you're like, or not so good employees, and you're like, oh, you know. But your people are a reflection of your leadership. And so as a leader, you are really represented by your people. And so that is why it's so important to build them, to nurture them, to grow them, right? I believe that being a team leader and being a boss, which is what tonight is really about, is also about embracing balance in those relationships, knowing when to push and when to pull, knowing when to be tough, because sometimes you have to be really tough, and that hurts, and knowing when to be soft, knowing when to be compassionate, knowing when to listen, which is almost always, you know, you can't not listen, finding that balance, and knowing when to say, hey, we got to do this, that, and the other, right? And being willing to be the bad guy sometimes, but doing it with love, right? So finding that balance. And I believe that this is one of the biggest things that most leaders and most teammates struggle with is that balance, that in-between. I have to work on it myself even, or I have to continue to work on it. I believe that being a leader today is having a vision that's bigger than yourself, and a vision that requires the development of more leaders to create more solutions. So if you want to be a boss, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to move really massive goals forward, it's going to require you to have a vision that is bigger than yourself, because that's the only way people are going to buy into it. No one is just going to buy into a vision that's all about you. You don't get people to move if it's just about you. You get people to move when they see themselves being impacted, positively impacted by the vision, and when you equip them with the tools they need to move forward. So being your own boss is creating solutions that move your community and the people in your community forward. Does that make sense? Good. I believe that bosses build people. That's it. Bosses build people. You build your company, but the only way your company is built on people. So how to boss up? What are some of the daily opportunities that each of you have to be your own boss? And let me just say that I believe that there are different types of bosses, right? Or team leaders or leaders, whatever you want to call this tonight, right? There are different types of bosses. So whether you're a manager, whether you're a politician like Jose, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're just, in your classroom, you all have the opportunity to be bosses. You all have the opportunity to boss up, to lead people, and to move things forward. Excuse me. So how can you do that every day? Because I don't want this to be too abstract. I want you to think about things that you can do every day, even before you get to that place where, hey, I own this and that business. How do you boss up, and how do you build those qualities that empower you to be an excellent leader? Well, I think, like I said before, it starts with finding a big vision, something that is bigger than yourself, something that people believe in, something that people will want to get up every day and move forward. Because I'll tell you, if you don't have a vision that is bigger than yourself, you won't last. It's tough. It's very tough. And I can't begin to say or share how many times I want to give up. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I was just so exhausted. And I remember driving home with Gino, and I said, what would happen if I just stopped? Like, if I just gave up? I considered it for a moment, not to say that I would do it, but the vision is so much bigger than myself that I know that I can't do that, because there's so many other things and people and opportunities that are reliant on my work and my effort. That's not self-grandiose, it's just the reality of the position that I've put myself in and the responsibility, because I have a vision that's bigger than myself. And I believe that everybody should seek to find a vision that is bigger than themselves, that can move them forward every day, even on the days when they don't feel like getting up and moving forward. You need to employ empathy. So you don't need to be a boss or a manager or the captain of your football team. What was that? Volleyball. Well, you're volleyball, but you play another sport, right? So you don't need to be the leader to have a vision that's bigger than yourself, and you certainly don't need to be the leader to employ empathy. What is empathy? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody knows what empathy is? Okay, all right. All right, it's just compassion. It's just understanding people, taking the time to understand people. Listen to people, connect with people, have conversations, take the time to learn people. You don't need to be a boss to do that. You can do that every single day in your work, in your relationships, all these things. Practice employing empathy. Because when you get to be a leader, you can't fake empathy. You can't fake caring. When you don't care, I mean, when I don't care, you can look at my face and say, I don't care, because I just don't care, right? But you have to practice employing empathy. The other thing is to take risks and responsibility. This is big. Being a boss requires taking massive action. Being a leader, it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of risk, and it also requires a whole lot of accountability. It's scary, but like I said, massive vision requires massive risk. And when you're taking those risks, you have to be, as a leader, accountable for whatever happens. So anything that goes wrong, you have to be able to say, look, this is on me. Because if you're the head, this is on you. This ain't on nobody else. You are the boss. You are the leader. You are the captain. You are the politician. It's on you, right? You are accountable. You can't blame it on your people. It's on you. This is very important. Bossing up demands accountability, and you can do that day in and day out. You're in class, you're on a school project, whatever it is you're doing, things didn't go well. Oh, why she didn't do this and down the paper? We had this assignment, but she didn't do. But you're in a group. You're leading the group, right? So you got to get it done. It's not anybody else's responsibility. It's yours. Empower others. This is big. Real bosses create more bosses. It's not just about me being the boss. It's about creating more bosses who create more bosses who create more bosses. That's what it's about. That's pretty simple, I think. Real bosses create more bosses and empower people and train people up to realize the boss within themselves. And that's where we spoke about nurture. And I think one of the final ways that you guys can practice bossing up in your day-to-day lives is to stay principled. And this one is big. It's about standing on integrity and on values and doing the right thing regardless of whether or not it's convenient. That is one of the hardest things as a leader. Because sometimes it's like, this is not necessarily convenient to me. But if it's right, it's right. If it's the right thing, it's the right thing. And as a leader, all you have is your reputation. You know, when Shelia was giving her presentation, she spoke about, your network and what's not. When you stay principled and when you stand on integrity, your network respects that. That's how you grow your network. When people know, when I talk to Taisha, I'm looking at you because you're looking straight at me. Hey, I know when I talk to Taisha, she's gonna do the right thing because it's the right thing. Frauds always get found out. That's it, right? Frauds always get found out. So stay principled, do the right thing because it is the right thing, and know that it will always work out. It's always worked out for me. That's how I see it. Sorry. So that's it. Be your own boss. And I believe that we all have the potential to boss up in our day-to-day lives and to grow into the very best version of ourselves, to lead our communities and our island forward, because that's really important. If you guys have any questions, I'm here and open to answer. Yes, ma'am. Can't hear you. Oh, sorry.
One thing you said was to employ empathy. Do you think that most bosses should take a course? Lad, you got my heart beating. Do you think most bosses should take, most persons should take a course in emotional intelligence to better suit themselves?
Can I be honest? I mean, there's some people who do psychology here. I don't know that you can teach them. Can you teach emotional intelligence? Okay, here you go. You can? So I don't know, I just think it's about being decent. And so you can teach some of it, you can teach, but I feel like if you have to teach someone emotional intelligence, you kind of teach them to fake it, right? Unless the teaching is more like reconditioning their mind to understand and see people differently. But more than anything, it's about leaders or great leaders are that's just who they are naturally. You know, they care about people, and they cultivate those things from the time they're a lot younger. Yeah. Any other questions? But that's a great question. Yes, ma'am.
You made a statement that you say you can inherit bad employees.
I knew that was coming.
Yes, I found it interesting. So you can like explain how can you inherit, like, you know.
How can you inherit bad employees?
Yeah.
Well, so
What do you mean by that then?
Okay, so, all right. So I won't give you a specific example, but what I'll say is that within my organization, I have the benefit of, it's my business, right? Gino and I own the business, so I get to hire who I want. So it's not a situation where, you know, somebody else is making a decision and then I just have to go with that. I have hired my team, and then I'm very deliberate in who I hire, and over the years I've had to become even more deliberate because I was not always deliberate. Whereas if you are now a manager, so I own my own business, if you are a manager, and that's bossing up as well, you're a manager. If you're a politician and you're inheriting people, like, right? So you inherit a team that might not be so productive, that might not be just a lot of things that you need. And so that is a challenge. And what I would say in a situation like that is different because I've never been in it, but so this is just a hypothesis because I've never been in it. But what I would say in a situation like that is you have to be very firm about what your needs are as a leader. And if it is that there's maybe a board or there's some other council or somebody that's making a decision, you need to be honest and transparent about your recommendations. You need to stand by it, and you also need to be prepared because your reputation as a leader it hinges on the performance of your team. So if it is that over time you see, look, these people ain't getting no better, this has me looking bad, your people are a reflection of you, then you also have to be prepared to stand on your values and walk away and say, look, this money is great, but in reality, I cannot continue to accept your money and know that I'm leading a team that is really not productive in doing what it is it's supposed to be doing and achieving the goals. You're not getting as much from me. So that's a difficult decision that a lot of people struggle to make, but it's important. Yes, Caitlin. Oh, okay.
I know you didn't speak on choosing the right career path, but that was Shalia's presentation. However, I think you did speak at my high school graduation, and I do know that this was not your initial journey. Well, this wasn't your journey. So you didn't just get up one day and become your own boss. I would like to hear a little bit for the rest of the room about your personal journey to becoming your own boss.
You want me to give my journey?
I wanted to add to the question because I was going to ask it separately. For you to give us the one defining experience or moment that turned you into the boss that you are today.
Nice. Wow. I think the defining experience for me, it would have had to be after Hurricane Irma. I mean, I've always, had my own business. Like I said, I never wanted to say, per se, like work for somebody like that, even though when you own your business, you work for people. So it's still working for people because you work for your clients. But after Hurricane Irma, it was just, like I saw businesses that we had just go. And life just got very real. That's 3 years ago, so I would have been 27, 28. And I just felt like, look, this is not the time to mess around anymore. Like, you need to boss up. Like, this can never happen to you again. You can never be in a situation where you've lost everything. And you're here sitting down trying to figure out what's next and where you're gonna go. And that's gonna call for some serious decisions. So a lot of experiences before that, but that point in particular, just to see, I guess, maybe the shock of the devastation, and just knowing that you're starting back from zero. But like a conversation I had with the fifth formers the other year, I enjoy fresh starts. I enjoy starting over, and I believe in using them very wisely. And so after Hurricane Irma, it was like a reset for us. And we felt like, if we're doing this, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it great. And one of the first great things we did was bring on Cordell as a teammate. So that has really helped us. Yeah. With a haircut. Go ahead. Yes, Calvin. Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, Yeah, it's similar, but it's a journey. I would just say that what made me transition to what I'm doing now and be actually here in Angola was the passing of my best friend Sil. So when he died, I just did not want to go back to the U.S. right then and there. I was very sad. I was in a very low, and I was just in a very bad place, and I needed to be home, and I also needed to earn. So I had just finished school. I had just graduated, and that was 2013, and I had just lost my best friend, and I had no money, and I just was in a very bad place, and all I had was just an idea for a business, and I just poured my all into that because it was better than thinking about, what I didn't have anymore.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
In terms of,
May I have some water, Ginny? The water, yeah. Go ahead.
in terms of growing your business, the stages and some of the steps that it took to get you from point A, which probably was like 0 to where you are now. That's one question. And then choosing the right people to work for you. How did you go about that process?
Okay. So the questions kind of intertwine because I am very transparent about, I get to stand up and give these speeches and all of that, but our business works the way it works because of the people that are on the team. We're a team and we work. And so if I say how we got to this place today, it has been the bossing up. That's why I made the presentation about your team. It has been just because we've built a really great team and we have really hardworking people and they work extremely hard. And one day they'll be able to look back and say it wasn't for nothing. I promise them that every day. But they work extremely hard, and Ariel and Cordell and Gino, of course, they've all not just worked hard on. And so this is how our business has gotten to where it is today. They've not just worked hard in terms of coming to work and doing the work, but they've worked very hard on what Shelia was talking about, building yourself and building your skills. You can't downplay that. You have to build your skills because if they were exactly where they were a few years ago, I do not have inherent in me the skill sets necessary to run our business. And I'll never have all the skill sets. So it's a group of people that are required to make something work. And the only way that can work is if those people are committed to personal and professional development and lifelong learning, which is what Shelia was alluding to, or what Shelia spoke about. And so the fact that they are committed to that is what I attribute to the success of our business today. Because if they weren't committed to growing, then our product would not be growing. You know what I'm saying? So that's like the very simple version. And in terms of hiring and building the right team to lead, I think it starts with questions. I've learned to ask a lot of questions. So I ask a lot of questions. And following your gut, Shelia also spoke about that. Following your gut and knowing that, like, if your gut is telling you, look, this person is bad news. Like don't turn around and just be like, I'm still gonna go with it because I'm desperate. Well, actually, what I'll attribute it again to 2017, the fall. I listened to a podcast by a guy called Andy Frisella. He's he swears a lot in his podcast. It's funny for me, but some people might find it offensive. But he had a podcast on hiring. And what he spoke about was before you hire somebody, you actually need to discourage them from taking the job. And so he spoke about saying, like, telling them, like, look, you don't want this job. You will never be paid as much as you're working. Like, you'll never feel like you're getting as much as you're being paid. Like, try to discourage them. Tell them, look, if there's anything else you could be doing, go and do it. And really go hard about all the reasons why they shouldn't take the job. And if they take the job after that, then there's a chance that they might be the right person for the job. And so we've tried to do that and just be very transparent and not approach hiring. I believe before 2017 or before Irma, I approached hiring more like, well, I hope this person will come and work for me. And whereas now it's like, nah. Like we get requests and calls and emails and what's not for jobs, but we're very discerning about who we allow into the space because you have to really want it and you have to be willing to go really hard because else, again, it's a team. So then it brings down the team if you're not. That's it. Good? That's it? Any other questions? Okay. But thank you guys for the questions and thank you again for the opportunity. You had a question, Taisha? What's your question? Go quick.
I don't
You don't have a question?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I think I have a comment on
Okay.
emotional intelligence. I think it is a matter of knowing your team and being vigilant in regards to where I can walk in a room and tell the mood of everyone. And that comes with being a leader. And I am in I can say I'm in a lot of leadership positions and where I am mostly the one to make decisions. But being on my volleyball team, I am the aggressive one. So now my whole team would be like, sometimes where they would see me being loud and aggressive, they would turn to me and say, Ty, you need to be more calm. And then I would look around and look at everyone and see their mood and realize that something is wrong with one. Because my strongest player is playing weak. And I am wondering why she's playing weak.
Right.
Come to find out that she was experiencing something.
Right.
So I learned from that experience and used it for my next game. When I had my next game, before we started, I asked every single one of them, how are they doing? Are they going through anything? What is happening? And we built a relationship from there. It is a matter of being observant, being vigilant, understanding who you are working with. And sometimes our environments makes us who we are. So once you understand the environment they come from, you would know why they retaliate or act in a certain manner.
That's a great point, Taisha. I want to give you a round of applause for that. And just to say that is essentially what we have to do as leaders all the time, and that I see the team even employing and the other people that we work with know, is that, my team can attest. I won't, obviously it's not appropriate to go into specifics, but if there's anything wrong, like I try to always read them. Like I can look at them. I'm with them. How many hours a day we're together? Why? Like we're together a lot of hours a day. So if something is off, like I ask them, and I'm very persistent about that. And I say, well, and I ask a lot of questions. And if something is wrong, we will literally stop all work to try to rectify that. And that's really important, not to just allow people to, be in a bad place. So thank you guys again. Appreciate the opportunity.